being interviewed during a conference on acceptance and rejection of rulers throughout history. Would you point out Byzantine emperors that were the least fit to rule the empire?
There were. Some were insane. Some others were bad rulers. They had not the qualities that a ruler should have. For instance, Phocas in the beginning of the 7th century, or Andronikos Palaiologos in the 12th century. And both of them were killed, the first in the Hippodrome, if I remember well. The other was lynched in the streets of Constantinople. So these, of course, are two examples, but there are also others that, and we see that some of them were not anymore king when the people or some of the officials said that we must have a change, and so on.
And in modern countries, where the rule of law is widely accepted, is there any room for even talking about our legally elected representatives being fit or unfit to govern, not to say rule?
My opinion is that we can say if somebody is fit or unfit to rule. Of course, they are elected, and they are elected by the people. But many times, people has not understood that this or that person is not able to be a governor. Many times we hear after the election, oh, if I knew, I should not have voted for him or for her or for somebody else. But this is after the election. Of course, people, the voters, can make their critics, and of course, as it is every 4, I think, years in every country, some others have 5 years elections, so they can not vote for him or for her, and so he cannot be anymore elected. So people can understand if somebody is fit or unfit to rule, but afterwards. But in Byzantium also, it was afterwards. The king was the king, and they saw that he was not capable to become a king. Now it is easier to stop somebody who is not a good politician or a good ruler, because there is a vote. And it is the vote every some years. In Byzantium, it was not. A king, an official, was for perpetual, for all life long. So we can, in democracy, we can say if somebody is fit or unfit, and we can change the situation.
That's a great point, and we can make a link to your work that you presented in this conference on Primen Lese Majestatis.
Yes.
One of the key points was that the ruler is to be obeyed, but only if they have the right qualities that are needed to be the ruler of the Byzantine Empire.
Yes.
And what we are talking about is that many rulers throughout history, we have so many examples of justification of wrongful rulers by some let's say, Christian quotes, including the famous quote that says that all authority comes from God. It's from the Epistle of St. Paul to Romans. And many Christians even today do not question the authority of the government because of that. That, of course, should not be the scenario, but what can we learn from the Byzantines in terms of reconciling the obedience towards the government, that is the state, with the need to maintain the control over it? So what are the red lines? Because, as we know, Byzantines really had in mind if somebody is ruling by the will of God, and is that according to the, let's say, God's rules?
Okay. Listen, of course there were some red lines. What do I mean? That the emperor in Byzantium was the person that God liked and protected. But if he did things that were not according to what God wanted, according to the political theory of the Byzantines, God was not anymore with him. And as the Byzantine says, the economia, not the economy, as we know nowadays, but the way of working had altered. God himself altered his choice, and he could overthrow this person. This way of overthrowing somebody was a kind of disorder, because God, with some people, had said that this is not good to continue, and they left them to make a disorder. This disorder had, as a result, to overthrow the bad governor and to have a new one. So these were the red lines, that is, the ruler had the qualities, but if sometimes these qualities stopped to exist for several reasons, or if he was another character during his ruling, then God did not want him anymore. And this stopped. And it was legal to overthrow them.
Yes, as we do today, if they are not ruling by the laws of the state. We make a pause until the thing is over. Yeah? Okay. It is possible. It is really loud.
The bell. It's 4. Yes.
It's 4. So we are good.
Yes, we have time. Oh, it goes well, I think, and rapid.
It goes quick. We don't have to repeat anything.
Yes.
Yeah. So just as we overthrow the governments that are not ruling by the laws of a state today,
yes,
as the Byzantines did overthrow the rulers that weren't quite ruling by the laws of the people, that is the state, and of the God. Today, that is enough for a ruler to break the state's laws for us to think that it's right to overthrow or to maintain the control over that behavior, right?
Yes, and nowadays we have the courts, the special courts, the constitutional courts, other courts who can control what a ruler makes. That is, if a law is against the constitution, or if a decree or something else of the governing party is not according to the laws. And so it is. There are other clauses in democracy, as it is now, that can overthrow the acts, and sometimes even the person who do not act according to the laws. Because if they do not work according to the law, then they are not rulers, they are tyrants. And so they are overthrown by the people, by the courts, by many, many things.